Civil 3D provides many methods to editing your parcels. For instance, let's zoom into our subdivision and notice that some of the parcels actually have the wrong style and area label style applied to them. I'm going to select all three parcels by picking the area label, go to the Properties palette, and I can change the style to the appropriate style, and I can change the parcel area label style as well. Pretty simple stuff. Now, as we look at our drawing, we notice that some of the properties are different regarding the abutment of the road and the property parcels. Parcels have the ability to have a priority. Because this parcel segment here and this parcel segment here, as well as all the additional ones, share a line between two parcels, you need to define the priorities to tell Civil 3D which parcels should govern for plotting. To do so, navigate to the site where your subdivision exists, and then on the parcels collection, you right-click and go to Properties. In the Composition tab, you have the ability to set the order for display. I'll select Road, and I'll put this to the top, and then I'll click OK, and as you'll see in the drawing, it updates automatically. Again, this is not two parcel segments, it's only one, and that's how you set the priorities for it. Let's look at making some actual edits to the parcel segments themselves. For instance, let's say I want to remove this PI here and I want to make a straight line out of it. I'll simply select the parcel segment, go to the Parcel Layout Tools, and then in the Parcel Layout Tools, there is a PI editing dropdown. I'll select the Delete PI option, and then following the command line window, it says pick a point near the PI to delete. And I'll simply pick there and delete. And we're done. If I want to delete some segments, I'll go ahead and select this one here, and then Parcel Layout Tools again, and I'll go ahead and select the Delete Subentity tool because we don't want this chamfer that was accidentally created when we developed our right-of-way. I'll pick there, and I'll pick there, and I also have a location where we have the chamfer as well, and I'll go ahead and delete those as well. And I now have all my edits completed. Press Escape to exit the command. Now what I need to do is I need to extend the objects to the intersection. To do so, you simply select it, and then using the extension OSNAP, simply extend the grips to the parcel segment. Notice how the parcel will update automatically. We'll do the same thing for this one here. I'll select this, extend, and again, if you don't get the point that you want, simply zoom back in again, acquire that point, and then grab it. By default, it should extend, and if it doesn't, you simply reacquire the tracking point. Now, let's say I want to edit one of these other segments down below here where I use the Slide Line Create tool. So I can just select these here, and simply using the grips, you can actually adjust all these and notice again how everything updates automatically. In fact, if I delete this segment, everything also updates as well. Just some really powerful and easy tools to use. So now that we've made our changes, as we're perusing our subdivision, we notice that some of the parcels and parcel segments are not on the right layers again. So this happened because we broke the parcel through here, and the road parcel had to take over because I deleted the segments in between here. A nice, quick, and easy way to make a selection set of the parcels that you want to actually make edits to without having to actually select them. And in fact, if we look here, I really can't select this parcel area label because it's not here. So what you can do is you can actually select them through the Prospector tab. Now right now, if we look at the Prospector tab, we're noticing that there's kind of a problem. There's nothing there. When in doubt, I always say regarding the interface, right-click. So you can right-click on any category or collection and select Refresh from the menu. And what you'll see is the parcels within our project. So you can simply select these, and you'll notice that you can actually see a nice little preview of the parcel. And you can peruse these, and this is one that I want to select because it's actually not the road parcel. So I can right-click on these and hit Select. And notice how it selects it in the file. I'll keep perusing here, and this one here is the parcel that's down below. I'll also right-click and select that one. And as you can see, I've got those two selected within the drawing. Now I can go to the Properties palette and change the parcel area label to display name, area, and perimeter, and then change the style to the style that is appropriate for them. I'll press Escape to clear my selection set. And what I also need to do is change this one here, so I can just simply select that one, because the roadway ones have now become single family house. And I'll select these 3 right here. And now I can go to the properties palette and we'll set this to road. Notice how the layers are updating automatically because of the priority list. And I'll set this to no display. And we have the parcels the way that we need them. Civil 3D provides many easy ways to select parcels and make edits to any of the parcels using the parcel layout tools again, as well as simply using the properties palette. Civil 3D provides easy methods to labeling parcels. Let's go ahead and look and see where these parcel labels are located. If we go to the Settings tab, under Parcel, we have Label Styles category, and then you have the Area, Line, and Curve labels. As far as area label styles, those are the labels that are defined for the area label within each parcel. We have line and curve labels, and notice that in this drawing, we actually have child styles. These are labels that will take on all the properties and parameters and settings defined from this label style, but simply take out specific parts that you may not want. So for instance, we have this one here called Span Bearing Distance with Crow's Feet, and then we have some child labels that are just the bearing only and distance only as they turn off the distance in the bearing and the bearing in the distance one. Let's go ahead and open up bearing over distance to just look at the label styles and how you can edit them. In the General tab, we have the label layer that it should go on, as well as the orientation. The Layout tab is where the content of the label is actually displayed. Now, because parcel line segments and curve segments can be added to a table, you want to add a table tag in case you want this done for the different parcel segments. If we select bearing, we have the bearing property. And if we look at the contents property, I can click on the ellipsis button here, and this is what the property for this segment will display. Navigate to the distance component, and we have the distance component as well. A nice little preview appears to show you how that label will display when placed in Civil 3D. So let's go ahead and label our drawing up. As we look in the drawing, we notice that the labels are somewhat placed in here already, but because of the way we edited and created our parcels, and because we had place labels in the drawing toggled on, we're not getting the most efficient labeling, and we're getting some overlap. So let's just start all over again. This is how easy it is to do this in Civil 3D. I'll select one, right-click, select Similar. Now, I do not have any curve labels, but if I did, I would select the curve labels and then do the same thing, and simply press Delete on the keyboard. We're now ready to begin again. I'll simply select one parcel label, and then in the Add Labels drop-down here, I can select Multiple Segment. I'll simply pick each area label and simply press Enter for clockwise. Notice the option for counterclockwise. If I wanted to do that, I could. So very quickly, we are able to re-annotate our drawing with the appropriate labels. Let's go ahead and zoom in here, and as an example, notice that we have 2 parcel segment labels, but let's assume that we want to actually have a spanning label. So instead of having the 2 distances here, I'm going to actually select one, and I'll delete it. Then I'll go to the Annotate tab and pick on the Add Labels. And the reason I'm doing this way and not selecting a label from the drop-down here is because this uses the default label style defined in the Command Settings in the Settings tab. I want to choose a spanning label that's already been defined for me in this drawing. I'll select the Feature drop-down, go to Parcel, and I want a single segment. And then over here, I will simply pick the overall distance and bearing label, click Add, and then click on my parcel segment, and now I have a parcel segment that displays the entire distance across the span. Let's go ahead and close the Add Labels dialog box. Some of the other things that you can do as far as editing labels is I can select this label, and in the contextually sensitive ribbon, I can actually reverse that label and notice how it goes from southwest to northeast, which is pretty cool. I can also go to the Edit Label text, and let's say I want to edit this specific label, and instead of L:, I want to say length equals. So I can override the style for this label only. Click OK, and now I've got that just for that label. I'll press Escape to clear my selection set, and let's zoom around and look at some of the other possibilities that you can do. Let's say I want to drag out this label and have an arrowhead attached to it. I'll simply select it, and then using the square grip, I can pick it and drag the label. Note the plus sign, which allows you to add additional vertices if you need to go around congested areas. You can also press the minus sign to get rid of them. In addition to that, if you completely make a mistake and want to reset your label, you can actually do so by simply selecting it and clicking on Reset Label, and it goes back to where it was. Also notice the diamond grip that does allow us to slide the label along the segment. Notice how it's sliding all the way along that segment there, which is pretty cool. Again, any of this labeling editing functionality is common for all labels within Civil 3D. Civil 3D provides methods to creating tables that reference your parcel segments. So what makes the parcel segments a table and what makes them read the actual labels themselves? Let's go ahead and look at that. In the Settings tab, let's go look at the Parcel Label styles for line segments. And what I'm going to do is we'll look at the bearing over distance, as this is the parcel label style being used by all of these labels within our drawing. I'm going to actually create a brand new one from the bearing over distance and make a child out of it. And we'll discuss how it actually will use the tags applied to the labels that the table will reference. Let's right-click on the bearing over distance label style and select New. When you do that, you will create a child style which will grab all of the settings and properties defined by this label style. So I'll go ahead and rename this to parentheses tags. And in the General tab, if you look at the Display Mode category under Label, you'll see this is what makes it actually become a tag, and which will then use the tag to actually display that instead of the bearing over distance. Make sure you go to the Layout tab, and then make sure this is set to True. Sometimes with certain labels it can be set to false, and obviously it will not display then. I'll click OK. We now have a new label style that we will apply to these objects, and the table will reference those tags. Let's start with a basic table, and let's go ahead and select the 4 labels here to change them to be that new label style. And we'll go to the Properties palette and select the bearing over distance and select the bearing over distance tags label. And notice how they now have tags applied to them. One of the downsides to making them tags is depending on the order in which you created your parcels, it actually does give them a sequential number. There is a renumber tool, but it will take you some time to renumber the tags. I'll go to the Survey tab, and if this is not displaying, right-click on any part of the panel and go to Show Tabs, and then turn on the Survey tab. And select the Renumber Tags in the Label and Tables panel. I'll start with this one here, and we'll just select it, and notice how it goes to L1. Now this is because I've already set this up in the settings, so let's go ahead and click on Settings here so you can tell which one to start with. So notice how I can set this to line starting number 2, because that's the next number, and then 10 for the table tag creation. So we'll also change this to 1 as well. I'll click OK, and continuing along here, I'll simply select this one here, and notice how it sets it to 2 automatically. We'll set this here, L3, and then L4. I'll press Escape, and let's go ahead and look at how we generate a table. So within the Parcel category, there is a Table Styles category. Let's go ahead and look at the Line category and this length and direction. I'll double click it, and notice how it's very simply like any other of the table styles, and we can just change some of the settings as far as the title and header styles, the data style, very similar to an AutoCAD table. And then down below here, I can actually add columns and remove columns, and to change any of the properties being displayed here, you simply double click here, and then you can add the properties that you want to. Now that we have that applied, let's go ahead and just simply select one of the parcels, and I'll click on the Add Tables dropdown and click Add Line. So what I have to first do is select some tags. Notice down here you can actually convert label styles to tags by simply selecting it here and clicking Add Existing and New. We'll toggle this off as I just want to create a table of these here, so I'll select this. We'll select Don't Add Labels that are not in tag mode. And we get 4 tags. I'll click OK here, and there's our table. So now, as we're looking here, this of course does not make any sense. How come it didn't put them in the correct order? So this setting here is defined in the table style. So let's go ahead and double click that table style that we just opened up. And notice the sort data option, and you can select the column by which to sort. So I'll go ahead and just select column 1, click OK, and now it'll update automatically. Now let's go ahead and select the additional labels here. I'll right click, select similar. And then I'm going to go to the properties palette. I'm going to change these all to the tag label style. Now, as soon as you do that, you need to actually redefine your table to update with this information. I'll click Add Items, and then I'll select the button right there, and I'll just basically make a crossing window like so, and click OK. And now the table has updated automatically. Again, you will need to go in and renumber your tags, as you can see here, depending on how you want to generate your table based on the subdivision design. You will need to recreate your labels. A little tip is to actually make use of the create duplicate, and then you can renumber the other ones as you get down to the duplicate numbers. Civil 3D provides many tools to reporting your parcels in many different ways. Let's first look at the Prospector tab and look at some of the ways that you can view your parcel information. In the site where the parcels exist, expand the site, and then you have the parcels category. If you'd like to actually report on the site itself, you can right-click on Parcels and go to Properties. This will analyze the outerlying parcel. To report on individual parcels, you can simply select them, right-click, and then Export to LandXML or Export Analysis. When you click on Export Analysis, you need to provide a destination file. I'll export this first property. Note the options available. You can do a map check, an inverse analysis, process segment order counterclockwise, however you need to do it. I'll click OK, and then in Notepad, you will get the report. You can then, of course, print this out, copy and paste it somewhere else, and so on. One of the other ways that you can report on parcels is through the toolbox. We'll expand the Reports Manager, and there's a parcel category. There are many kinds of reports that you can do for your parcels. Let's go ahead and just do a simple area report, and I'll simply activate this by double-clicking it. You are then prompted to select a parcel or parcels. The buttons above here help you easily toggle on and off the different Civil 3D objects. I'll simply clear all. I'll collapse all my objects, and then I can simply expand the objects I want to report on. So we'll toggle on all my parcels, click OK. You'll need to save a HTML file, and then in your default browser, you'll get all the parcels and their area in acres and in square feet. Let's look at the legal description for parcels. I'll simply double click there. Again, using the buttons above here, we'll toggle off everything, collapse everything, and then I'll just select a few of my parcels here. You are prompted if you want to run an ActiveX control, so go ahead and click on here and allow the block content. And then now you'll see this little gray bar here that you can actually click Append to Report, and there's your legal description for the parcel in question. To expand this, simply click the gray bar here, select a different parcel, and then either clear the report or append this one. Notice how I can append as many as I want to. And of course, you'll see the option there that you can actually print the report on the bottom. There's also meets and bounds reports that you can select by simply double-clicking this. Note that you can also pick from the drawing. So let's go ahead and do that by simply clicking that button. And I'll pick a few parcels here. Right-click when you're done with your selection set, and these will automatically get selected, as you can see here. I'll click OK. Save my meets and bounds reports. And again, in your default browser, the report will appear. Now let's look at a different kind of report. This report is actually a program. The Parcel Map Check report, I can double click here, and notice how you get a dialog box. So this is a program that was developed by Autodesk, and it's very similar to the Export Analysis function that we saw in the Prospector tab. You can toggle any of the parcels you want on in the dialog box, and then simply click on Create Report. This will then generate a Parcel Map Check report for all of the parcels that you had checked. And then you could, of course, right-click, select all, and then copy and paste it out as you need to. As you can see, Civil 3D provides many ways to report on your parcels.